So for part 2, I need the celebrities to join us on the stage. And now your line is right afterwards. Could you sit where? Yes. So Jane, could you switch and sit down there? The two are, I'm sorry. Yes. No, you two are fine. So, I forgot my picture. I can't find my picture, so you all would see my picture up on the PowerPoint. Okay, so I'm going to have the celebrities raise their hands as I introduce them. So, in my dream, time shifted from the late 1700s to the mid to late 1800s. Suddenly, I am sitting in a room among a group of prominent liberals, progressives, and radicals. There are people like William Lloyd Garrison. There are people like William Lloyd Garrison, the renowned abolitionist and social justice advocate. There are people like John Dewey. Yes. So there's John. Famous for his views about education and democracy. Now, the vast majority of people in the room are still wealthy, white, property-owning men. But this time they have been joined by prominent white women, like sociologist Jane Addams, known as the mother of social work, and black men like Frederick Douglass, a freed slave abolitionist, orator, statesman, and defender of the rights for blacks, and also black women like Sojourner Truth. Sojourner? Yes. A freed slave abolitionist and advocate for women's rights, as well as Anna Julia Cooper, who was born to an enslaved mother but became an author, educator, and distinguished scholar. There were two other faces that stood out. Southern Cheyenne peace negotiator Black Kettle, and Christel Quintasket, who was also present. Christel? Yes. She was also known as Mourning Dove, who was the first Native American woman to publish a novel. Did I get everyone? Who did I forget? Oh, yes, I'm coming to him. So though progressives and liberals, the vast majority in this part of my dream, were still wealthy white men. But Newton Knight was also present. Now, Newton Knight, you may not know about Newton Knight. There was a movie made about him, The Free State of Jones. Newton Knight was a white farmer in the South, in Mississippi, who was against the Confederacy and against slavery. I mean, who literally fought. He was on what we would say the right side of history. Though in Mississippi, a very racist part of the South of the U.S., he fought to free slaves. He fought against the Confederacy. He challenged the KKK. So they were all in the room. Now, we're going to hear from some of them. The wealthy there is William Newton. Wait a minute, I'm confused. There is Newton Knight. What's your name? Newton Knight. Yes, there is Newton Knight. All right. So, the wealthy progressives, white men in the room, they argued from this principled space of how things should be. John Dewey asserted, like Horace Mann, I believe public schools to be great equalizers.
Like Horace Mann, I believe public schools to be great equalizers.
Wow, there's an echo in this room, I like it. Jane Addams exclaimed, Frederick Douglass said, but blacks and many whites still don't have a right to an education.
But blacks and many whites still don't have a right to an education.
Wow, Frederick Douglass has a British accent. And then Jane Addams exclaimed, and white women don't have the right to vote.
And women don't have the right to vote.
And as Sojourner Truth nodded in support, Anna Cooper explained, black women neither have the right to vote nor the right to an education. We support our black brothers, yet point out that we deal with the oppressions of racism and sexism.
Black women neither have the right to vote nor the right to an education. We support our black brothers, yet point out that we deal with the oppressions of racism and sexism.
Newton Knight, William Garrison, and Jane Addams chimed in. Speak, sisters.
Speak, sisters.
Knight added, and poor whites have far more in common with black men and women than with wealthy whites.
And poor whites have far more in common with black men and women than wealthy whites.
Black Kettle, speaking directly to the white progressives in the room, asserted, you speak of equality as you covet lands that are ours. You are dazzled by ideals, while in the mid to late 1800s, Native nations, the original nations, do not have the right to vote in their own country.
You speak of equality as you covet lands that are ours. You are dazzled by ideals, while in the mid to late 1800s, Native nations do not have the right to vote in their own country.
And Quintosket augmented Black Kettle's reprimand. She says, white men have too often been infatuated with turning Native Americans into symbols and ideals instead of treating us as equals who are real. Native nations would not have citizenship and the right to vote in their own country until 1924.
White men have too often been infatuated with turning Native Americans into symbols and ideals instead of treating us as equals who we are real. Native nations will not have citizenship and the right to vote in their own country until June 2nd, 1924.
Go on, Crystal. Morning dove. So, forgetting that I was cloaked in the privilege of whiteness and maleness and wealth, I emphasized, and white liberals and progressives like you, like us, must venture down from the loft of ideals and actively listen to and reverently collaborate with those whose causes we claim to support. Now, among the whites in the room, only Jane Addams, William Lloyd Garrison, and Newton Knight saw through my cloak of white privileged maleness as they smiled, nodded, and winked directly at me in support of my statement. So that ends part 2, but the celebrities can stay on the stage. So now we switch to part 3, and this is the final part of this presentation. So now I am no longer dreaming. I have arrived to the Reconnecting Struggles workshop discussion and panel as a working class origins black woman with the status of professor. When I say Black Lives Matter, I am saying that Thomas Jefferson never practiced what he preached. Like too many open-minded whites today, I am saying that many white liberals and progressives from the mid-1800s to the mid-1900s were more infatuated with ideals than realities. I am suggesting that if in part 2 of my dream, if I had really been a black woman, if I had been Julia Cooper or Sojourner Truth, Anna Julia Cooper or Sojourner Truth, the white liberals and progressives in the room would have treated me with racist, sexist, and elitist disregard. I am saying that the achievements of the women's movements in the late 1800s and early 1900s, as well as the accomplishments of black, Chicano, Asian, Native American, gay rights, poor peoples, social and civil rights movements from the 1960s and 70s are ongoing uphill struggles. In addition to the US, movements took place in the Caribbean, the UK, and several other places. We are part of those struggles. They are ongoing. In agreement with Jesse Jackson, I am saying that the system has a class bias as well as a race bias. In the first 5 months of 2015 in the US, 95% of police killings occurred in neighborhoods with median incomes under $100,000. There were no killings in neighborhoods with median income, family incomes of $200,000 or more. 0% in 2005 of police killings take place in wealthy neighborhoods. I am saying that according to the UN, according to their trends and statistics, worldwide, women, and especially women of women of color, are the most vulnerable group worldwide. I am saying that the highest rates of police killings in the United States are for Native, Black, and Latino Americans. In highlighting the intersections of race and class, I am reminding you that if Dylan Roof, the mass murderer and white supremacist who killed 9 African Americans in Charleston, South Carolina in June of 2015, had been Steve Bannon, the chief strategist for Donald Trump, well, if he had been Steve Bannon, if he had been white and wealthy, his lawyers would have likely used some kind of affluenza defense, because you're wealthy and affluent, you don't know right from wrong. Like the one used to exonerate Ethan Couch in June of 2013, after he killed 4 people while driving DUI, driving under the influence. There was another person around the same time who was sentenced. He was Latino and got 20 years for a similar type of offense. Or despite his heinous crime, I am saying that Dylan Roof might have received a relatively light sentence, as was the case with Brock Turner, the white and wealthy rapist who was found guilty of 3 felonies, yet only sentenced to 6 months, only serving half of that time. On the other hand, although Roof lacked class privilege, he still experienced race privilege, as police bought him a hamburger because he seemed hungry, and placed Roof in a bulletproof vest, just in case someone tried to attack him. Now, I'm not saying they shouldn't have done those things. They should have. But they should do that to anyone. Everyone's humanity is important, even when they've committed heinous acts. So I'm not saying they shouldn't have done that to Roof. I'm just saying he doesn't have class privilege as a white person, though he has race privilege. So though the light sentences of Couch and Turner were extremely inadequate, I am saying that we, all the people, should be treated with the same complex humanity, the same complex dignity afforded to those who are white and wealthy. Now, I agree with sociologist Rockford, Z.W. Rockford, who argues, the question is not how privilege can be eliminated, but how it can be democratized. So when I say Black Lives Matter, I ask that you not insult the struggles of Black Americans and other marginalized groups with the shallow universalism of all lives matter, because all lives will not matter until the lives of those denied human rights matter. But I invite you to join in solidarity and boast of the common struggle of we the people who have been left out of human civil rights and human dignity. In the U.S., left out of the American dream. So when I call Black Lives Matter, I invite you to transcend oppositional posturing and join in solidarity by responding, Native and Latino lives matter. Poor white lives matter. poor women's and children's lives matter. I especially ask white liberals and progressives to move beyond ideals and take a close and complex look at historical and empirical realities, as perceptively observed by Remy Salisbury, and I quote, "To engage meaningfully in the kind of feminist, anti-racist, anti-capitalist work needed to bring about change is a task infinitely more difficult than criticizing someone like Theresa May or Donald Trump or some of these other extremely narrow-minded politicians that have power. This kind of engagement would reveal Trump to be more symptom than cause. It would encourage us to look at the wider factors that would give rise to such a demagogic figure. To a poor one man may be comforting, but unless it is supplemented by a critique of structural white supremacy, it will always miss the mark. So when I say Black Lives Matter, if you still feel the need to counter with all lives matter, then I answer by going back to my dream. I indicated that the conversation with Jefferson, Madison, and Jay continued. Well, at least in the part of my dream, in part one, Thomas Jefferson turned to John Jay and James Madison and said, "Gentlemen, if there's a hell, if there are levels of purgatory, then we are all headed to the sections designated for overconfident braggarts and self-righteous hypocrites." So I end this poem, or I end this speech, with the rewrite of a poem that was done by the anti-Nazi, anti-racist priest, Martin Niemöller. And I see that one of my speakers is looking for his part. First, the Trump administration, supported by Theresa May, came for the original nations of the Americas, and I did not speak out because I was not a Native American from the original nations.
Then they came for the blacks of America and Europe, and I did not speak out because I was not black.
Then they came for the Mexicans, Latinos, and Asians, and I did not speak out because I was not a Mexican in particular, Latino in general, or Asian.
Then they came for the Muslim, and I did not speak out because I was not Muslim.
Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for those with disabilities, and I did not speak out because I was not disabled.
Then they came for persons who were LGBTQ, and I did not speak out because I was not queer.
And then they came for immigrants and refugees, and I did not speak out because I was not a recent immigrant or refugee. I was born in this country and I have a passport. They already came for the Syrians, and I had not spoken out as they were drowning in the sea.
And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out. If I could just take 3 more minutes, I'd like to do a spoken word piece. Okay. Okay, yes. So if the celebrities would like, thank you so much. Yeah. So this piece was inspired, I read it at other activist gatherings, and I think about my legacy, what inspires me. And it's called Spirited Resistance, Spirited Resistance. Now, it's also inspired by a Negro spiritual, the old Negro spirituals. Enslaved African Americans often passed messages in song. They often communicated something that was going to happen in song. And so there's one song called Wade in the Water, Wade in the Water. And it goes like this, but I'm going to change it. So it goes like this. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. And that was often a message about passage and escape. So I'm changing it to the spirit. And by the spirit, I mean spirited resistance. So, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. The spirit's gonna trouble the water. Strong-willed, forceful, determined, everlasting, I am spirited resistance. I am the descendant, I am the inheritance, the heritage, the legacy of those who fought for me, before me. I am also the ancestor of those who will continue the struggle when I am but a ghost haunting the earth, wind, and fire of revolution, wading in the waters of revolution. I am the spirit, the zeitgeist of nonviolent resistance. I am spirited resistance, haunted by the loving Jesus Christ, turn the other cheek, peaceful but civil disobedient ghost of Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King Jr. I am the ghost of confrontational opposition, possessed with the defiance of Malcolm X, Nation of Islam inspired, by any means necessary, poltergeist-powered ghost of Catherine Cleaver, Huey Newton, Fred Hampton, and other members of the Black Panther Party, and by Arlesia Garza, Patrice Cullors, and Opal Tometi, who created and empowered the Black Lives Matter movement. I can cloak you in my love or rock you with my rage. I can defy you through my refusal to hate you, or detest your hatred through my refusal to be defiled by you. I can possess your racist, sexist, heteronormative, Islamophobic, white supremacist heart with the altruism of nonviolent resistance, or exercise your bigoted soul with the fury of confrontational revolutionary change. Like the intersectional, bridge-building ideology of Mette, Mirjam, and Sara, who organized this workshop, I can also hover, float, and fly somewhere between states of civil disobedience and disruptive revolution. I am spirited resistance. I horrify US presidents and UK prime ministers. I terrorize corrupt politicians. I scare the shit out of dictators. I rise up against the racist, militarized police state. I move through and dismantle walls of oppression. I am the unblockable, unstoppable, reincarnatable, eternal spirit of resistance. And I am here to stay. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. The spirit's gonna trouble the water. Thank you.